Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're going to be looking at Just Dial,
Okay.
the Indian local search engine company.
Right.
And you've given us quite a collection of materials here.
Yes.
We've got their Q3 FY25 investor presentation,
Uh-huh.
their earnings release of the board meeting outcome,
Okay.
and a really insightful set of questions about it all.
Yeah.
What I find really interesting about Just Dial is that they're not just a website anymore.
Right.
They've got mobile apps, a B2B marketplace called JD Mart,
Okay.
and even a hotline number.
Wow.
They really seem to be blending the old with the new.
What's fascinating is how well they've adapted to the mobile-first world,
Yeah.
which is crucial in India right now.
Right.
So let's dive into how they performed this quarter.
Okay.
What drove those results and what it all means for their future.
Well, right off the bat,
Yeah.
Just Dial is reporting some really impressive growth.
Okay.
Their revenue jumped 8.4% year over year,
Uh-huh.
hitting 287.3 crores. But is this just a temporary spike, or are we seeing some fundamental shifts in their business?
Well, their traffic is booming,
Okay.
which is a good indicator of sustainable growth.
Mm-hmm.
They saw a 15.3% increase in unique visitors,
Wow.
reaching over 191 million.
Okay.
This means more active paid campaigns on their platform,
Yeah.
which is their primary revenue source.
Right.
And here's a key insight.
Okay.
86% of that traffic is
Mhm.
coming from mobile platforms.
So they're not just surviving the mobile revolution.
No, they're thriving in it.
That's amazing. They really seem to have nailed their mobile strategy.
Yeah.
But growth is one thing.
Mm-hmm.
Are they turning that growth into profit?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Their EBITDA margin,
Yeah.
which essentially measures
Yeah.
profitability,
Uh-huh.
jumped a significant 735 basis points to 30.1%.
Okay.
Now, that might sound like financial jargon,
Right.
but think of it this way.
Okay.
For every rupee Just Dial earns,
Yeah.
they're keeping a much larger portion as profit now.
So they're becoming more efficient with their spending.
Yeah, they're seeing the benefits of both revenue growth
Mm.
and cost control.
Okay.
In fact, their operating expenses
Yeah.
actually went down compared to last year,
Wow.
which is a sign of strong financial discipline.
So they're not just spending more to make more.
No,
They're finding ways to optimize their operations.
they are.
That's really impressive.
Yeah.
It shows that they're focused on building a sustainable business,
Right.
not just chasing short-term gains.
Exactly. And this ties into their incredibly strong financial position.
Okay.
They're sitting on a pile of cash and investments
Uh-huh.
worth over 5,062.7 crores.
Wow.
This is a huge advantage
Okay.
because it gives them the flexibility to invest in future growth,
Yeah.
whether that's acquisitions, new product development, or expanding into new markets.
Mhm.
They have options,
Yeah.
which is always a good thing in business.
So they're not just sitting pretty on their success. They're strategically positioned to make some big moves.
They are.
And speaking of big moves,
Yeah.
let's talk about what they're doing beyond traditional search.
Okay.
JD Mart,
Mm-hmm.
their B2B marketplace,
Yeah.
really caught my attention.
Yeah.
I'm interested in understanding the potential of this platform.
This is where it gets really interesting.
Yep.
JD Mart is all about helping businesses in India
Uh-huh.
get online and participate in the booming e-commerce space
Right.
with India's digital economy exploding.
Mm-hmm.
This is a smart move by Just Dial.
Yeah.
Think of it as a digital storefront for businesses
Cool.
to connect with buyers all across India.
So it seems like they're tapping into this incredible entrepreneurial energy that's sweeping across India.
Yeah,
They're not just connecting buyers and sellers,
Right.
they're empowering businesses to grow.
exactly.
But JD Mart isn't their only venture beyond traditional search, is it?
No, it's not.
Okay.
They've also launched transaction-oriented services like JD Pay,
Okay.
which essentially allows users to buy products and services directly through their platform.
Okay.
This is a strategic shift
Yeah.
from just providing information
Right.
to actually facilitating transactions.
So they're becoming more than just a directory,
Yes,
almost like a mini Amazon for local businesses.
that's a great analogy.
Okay.
This diversification is crucial
Yeah.
because it reduces their reliance on advertising revenue alone
Mm-hmm.
and opens up new growth avenues.
I'm seeing a clear pattern here.
Okay?
Just Dial isn't resting on their laurels. They're taking calculated risks and expanding their horizons in a way that seems very strategic.
It's definitely a bold approach,
Yeah.
but it seems to be paying off so far.
Okay, so we've covered their impressive financial performance and their exciting expansion beyond search. What stands out to you at this point in our deep dive?
I'm particularly intrigued by how they're managing to grow so rapidly while also becoming significantly more profitable.
Right.
That's not an easy feat to accomplish,
Yeah.
especially in such a competitive market.
I agree.
Yeah.
It shows a level of discipline and strategic thinking that's not always seen in high-growth companies.
Right.
It makes me wonder, though, are there any potential downsides to this rapid expansion?
Sure.
Are they spreading themselves too thin, or are they managing their growth effectively?
Right.
This is where I think diving deeper into their financials and understanding the nuances of their strategy would be really valuable.
Absolutely. And luckily, you've provided us with a great set of resources.
Right.
And some very insightful questions to guide us through that process. You mentioned potential downsides to Just Dial's rapid expansion, and it's a valid concern.
Yeah.
Growth can sometimes come at the expense of profitability.
Right.
But Just Dial seems to be bucking that trend. Their impressive EBITDA margin jump of 735 basis points is a testament to that.
That's true. It's not just about growing, it's about growing smart and sustainably.
Right.
What exactly did they do to achieve such a significant increase in their profitability?
Well, it's a combination of factors.
Okay.
On one hand, they've managed to increase revenue significantly, as we discussed. But on the other hand, and perhaps even more impressively, they've also exercised tight cost control.
Okay.
Their operating expenses actually decreased year over year, which is a clear sign of their focus on efficiency.
That's interesting. So they're not just throwing money at growth.
No.
They're being very deliberate about how they spend and where they invest.
Exactly.
It's almost like they're optimizing a well-oiled machine, finding ways to get more output with less input.
Precisely. And that operational efficiency is a sign of a mature and well-managed business.
Right.
They're not just chasing growth at any cost. They're focused on building a sustainable and profitable enterprise.
Which, in the long run, is what really matters for investors and for the long-term health of the company.
Exactly.
But remember, you brought a bunch of questions from our listener.
I did.
And one that popped into my head as we were talking about efficiency is this.
Okay.
One of the questions asks about their other income.
Right.
Now, that's not their main business.
Yeah.
But it can be a significant part of their overall financial picture. What can you tell us about that?
That's a great point.
Yeah.
While their core business performance is undoubtedly strong, it's also important to understand the role of other income in their financial statements.
Okay.
For Just Dial, this primarily comes from their investments.
Okay.
And as you know, investment returns can fluctuate, which can impact the consistency of that revenue stream.
So how does that play into Just Dial's financials this quarter?
Well, their other income did increase compared to the same period last year. However, it actually declined quite a bit from the previous quarter.
Oh.
This might seem alarming at first glance, but it's important to understand the context.
So it's not necessarily a red flag?
No.
It's more about understanding the nuances of this revenue stream.
Exactly. The previous quarter saw a significant boost in their investment portfolio due to falling bond yields. This isn't something that happens every quarter.
Right.
So it's important to look at the long-term trends rather than getting fixated on short-term fluctuations.
That makes sense. It's like looking at the overall weather pattern rather than just focusing on a single day's forecast.
Right.
You need to see the bigger picture to really understand what's going on.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've dug into the details of their revenue growth, cost control, and other income.
Okay.
But zooming out a bit, what's your overall assessment of Just Dial's financial health?
I'd say they're in a very strong position.
Okay.
They have a solid track record of revenue growth. They're managing their costs effectively, and their large cash reserves give them a lot of flexibility for future investments.
Okay.
This isn't to say there are no challenges or risks, but overall, the picture is very positive.
That's great to hear, but let's not shy away from those potential challenges. Another listener question specifically asks about debt levels and liquidity.
Okay.
Are there any concerns there?
Not really. Their balance sheet looks very healthy.
Okay.
They're not carrying a lot of debt, and their cash position is incredibly strong.
So no red flags there. No, they're not over-leveraged.
Right.
or facing any liquidity crunches.
Correct.
In fact, I'd imagine their strong cash position gives them a significant advantage in a competitive market like India, right?
Absolutely. It allows them to be more aggressive with investments, weather economic downturns, and even make strategic acquisitions.
Right.
If they see an opportunity, they have a financial cushion that many companies would envy.
It's like they've got a safety net that allows them to be bold and take calculated risks.
Exactly.
That's a powerful position to be in.
It is.
But remember, we were talking earlier about those potential downsides of rapid expansion. Are there any specific risks or vulnerabilities that you see on the horizon for Just Dial?
There are always potential risks.
Right.
Even for the most successful companies.
Of course.
One that stands out is their heavy dependence on the Indian market.
Okay.
While the Indian economy is currently booming, it's also susceptible to macroeconomic factors and policy changes that are beyond Just Dial's control.
So they're kind of like a ship sailing in potentially choppy waters.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
And it highlights the importance of diversification,
right?
Which thankfully Just Dial is already pursuing. They're expanding beyond search with JD Martin, JD Pay.
Right.
But could they do even more to reduce their reliance on a single market? Perhaps exploring international expansion or diversifying into new product categories.
Okay.
That's something to consider.
That's a really interesting thought. It goes back to their strong financial position and their ability to make bold moves.
Yeah.
They have the resources and the capacity to diversify geographically.
Right.
Which could mitigate some of the risks associated with being solely dependent on the Indian market.
Exactly. And it also ties into another listener question.
Okay.
About their expansion into new markets.
Yeah.
Or product offerings.
Right.
We've already touched upon JD Mart and JD Pay. But are there any other areas they could potentially explore?
Well, the information you provided highlights their focus on enabling businesses to thrive in the digital economy.
Yes.
Could they leverage their existing platform and technology to create new tools or services for businesses?
Potentially.
Perhaps something related to marketing automation,
data
analytics, or even logistics and supply chain management.
Right.
These are all areas where businesses in India are seeking digital solutions.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
Just Dial has a deep understanding of the Indian business landscape.
Yeah.
And a vast network of businesses on their platform.
Right.
They could leverage this expertise and network to create a suite of value-added services that complement their existing offerings.
It's almost like they're building an ecosystem for businesses providing everything they need to succeed in the digital age.
Exactly.
And that could be a very compelling value proposition for both businesses and investors.
I agree. It's an exciting prospect.
Yeah.
And one that I'm sure we'll be watching closely in the coming quarters.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here from their impressive financial performance and strategic expansion to potential risks and future opportunities.
Right.
It's a complex picture, but a fascinating one.
It is.
Before we move on to the final part of our deep dive,
I'm going to give our listener a moment to absorb everything we've discussed so far.
That's a great idea. We've covered a lot of information.
We have.
And it's important to let it sink in before we delve into the next layer of analysis.
Okay, so we've covered Just Dial's impressive financials.
Right.
And their ambitious moves beyond just search. Now, let's shift gears a bit and talk about the bigger picture.
All right.
The market trends and those macroeconomic factors that could really shape Just Dial's future.
Okay.
We've touched on their reliance on the Indian market, but what other forces are at play?
Well, one trend that's impossible to ignore is the explosion of mobile payments in India.
Okay.
Just Dial is trying to tap into that with JD Pay.
Right.
But they're facing stiff competition from established players like Google Pay and Paytm, not to mention a whole wave of fintech startups.
So it's not just about having a good product.
No.
It's about winning over users in an already crowded space.
Right. JD Pay has to be incredibly user-friendly.
Yeah.
And offer something unique to stand out.
Absolutely.
What other external factors could impact Just Dial?
Well, government regulation is something to keep a close eye on.
Okay.
India has been tightening rules around data privacy and online content,
Right.
which could have a big impact on Just Dial as they collect more user data and expand into new services.
Okay.
They need to be agile.
Uh-huh.
And adapt to the evolving regulatory landscape.
So it's like they're navigating a constantly shifting maze.
Yes.
Trying to stay ahead of the regulations while also innovating and growing.
Right.
And let's not forget about the competitive landscape.
Yeah.
It's fierce out there. We talked about Google and Amazon. But what about the local startups? How does Just Dial stack up against those nimble, innovative newcomers?
Just Dial has a major advantage: brand recognition and scale.
Okay.
They've built a strong reputation over the years and have a huge user base.
Right.
But they can't afford to get complacent.
Yeah.
They need to find that balance between leveraging their strengths and staying innovative to fend off the competition.
It's like the classic David and Goliath story.
Right.
But this time, Just Dial is Goliath. They need to use their size wisely while still being agile enough to adapt to new challenges.
Exactly. It's a delicate dance between stability and innovation.
Right.
One of the questions you provided really gets to the heart of this.
Okay.
It asks about how Just Dial's digital initiatives, like JD Mart and JD Pay, are impacting customer acquisition and retention.
Those are crucial metrics.
Yes.
Especially as they expand beyond traditional search.
Right.
Are they efficiently attracting new users and, more importantly, keeping them engaged?
That's the key question. And unfortunately, the information we have doesn't dive into the specifics of customer acquisition costs or retention rates for these new services.
Right.
That data would be really insightful to understand how effectively they're scaling these ventures.
So it's kind of a black box right now. We know they're making moves, but we don't have the complete picture of their effectiveness.
We don't.
This is something investors would definitely be scrutinizing.
For sure.
Speaking of investors, one of the questions asks about investor sentiment.
Okay.
How are people feeling about Just Dial right now?
Well, given their strong performance this quarter, their solid financial position, and their strategic initiatives, I'd say investor sentiment is likely quite positive.
Right.
They're delivering results.
Right.
They're financially sound.
Right.
And they're positioning themselves for long-term growth.
Yeah.
That's a trifecta that usually excites investors.
It sounds like Just Dial is giving investors a lot to be optimistic about.
It seems that way.
But what should investors be watching for in the coming quarters? What are the key indicators that will tell us whether these strategies are truly successful?
A few things come to mind.
Okay.
First, the performance of JD Mart and JD Pay.
Right.
Are those platforms gaining traction? Are they contributing meaningfully to revenue and profitability?
Okay.
Those are the growth engines of the future for Just Dial.
So they need to prove that these new ventures aren't just hype.
Right.
They're actually translating into tangible results.
Exactly.
What else should investors be paying attention to?
Second, their ability to navigate that competitive landscape we talked about.
Okay.
Can they hold their own against the giants like Google and Amazon and keep those nimble startups at bay?
Right.
And finally, they need to demonstrate adaptability to changing market trends and those ever-evolving regulations. Can they stay ahead of the curve and anticipate what's coming next?
So it's about keeping a close eye on their current performance, looking for those signs of future growth, and constantly monitoring the ever-changing market dynamics. It's a complex, dynamic situation. But that's what makes it so interesting to analyze.
Absolutely. It's a company in transition.
Right.
Building on their legacy.
Yeah.
While simultaneously reinventing themselves for the future.
I see.
It's a fascinating story of evolution and adaptation.
I love that it's not just about numbers.
No.
It's about a company trying to carve out its place in a rapidly changing world.
For sure.
And on that note,
I
think it's time to wrap up this deep dive into Just Dial.
Agreed. It's been a pleasure dissecting this with you.
Likewise, and to our listener, we hope this deep dive has provided you with valuable insights and a deeper understanding of Just Dial's current position and future prospects. Remember, the world of business is constantly changing.
Absolutely.
And companies like Just Dial are at the forefront of this evolution.
They are.
We'll be back soon with another deep dive into a whole new topic.
Looking forward to it.
Until then, keep exploring.
Okay.
Keep learning.
Yeah.
And keep asking those insightful questions.